My name is Chinedu Vincent Akuta. Still on matters arising about Babangida's book. Babangida was the former military head of state of Nigeria from 1985 to 1993. A lot of things happened during his regime. And then of recently, I think on the 20th of February 2025, he launches autobiography titled A Journey in Service. I had made the first video about the book. Um, Matters are still arising. So I'm also making this second video about the one of the contents of the book as regards the first coup in Nigeria, because that has also been a subject of controversy for some people, and for some that knows the truth. It wasn't a kind of a controversy for those that knows the truth. Now, IBB said in the book, let me quote him verbatim from the book. He says, yeah. Now, he says he talked about Nzogu, who was let's say, the quote unquote mastermind of the coup. He said, for instance, I'm just quoting IBB's book. He said, for instance, the head of the plotters, Major Kaduna Nzogu, was only Igbo in name, born and raised in Kaduna. His immigrant parents were from Apanam in today's Delta State, which in 1966 was in the old Midwestern region of Nigeria. Nzogu spoke fluent Hausa and was as Hausa as any, which means, if not for his name and his parents, he was more like an Hausa person. But let's move on. He and his original team probably thought, even if naively, that they could turn things around for the better in the country. So they actually had a good motive for trying to stage a coup. So let us also establish this fact that they had a good motive, quote and unquote, for them, for the coup attempt. Now, let's also move on here. Babangida's quote, I'm still on the book, it should, however, be borne in mind that some senior officers of Igbo extraction were also victims of that January coup. For instance, Babangida is saying, my SY commander at the reconnaissance squadron in Kaduna, Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Chinyelo Unegbe, was brutally gunned down by his own brother, Major Chris Aduforo. Right? In the presence of his pregnant wife at his 7-point row residence in Apapa, for merely being a threat to the revolution. As a disciplined and strict officer, he was not referring to Squadron Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Chinyelo Onegbe, as a strict and then disciplined officer who, as the Quartermaster General of the Army, was also in charge of ammunition, weapons, equipment, vehicles, and other vital items for the army. The coup plotters feared that he might not cooperate with them. So the point I want to make here, Babangida said in his book here, it should, let me also go back again. It says, it should, however, be borne in mind that some senior officers, not even one, senior officers of Igbo extraction were also victims of the January coup. So what this point here has also established is that many Igbo officers, not even one, were also killed in that coup. I've read so many articles and publications. I've read so many books about the Civil War, the Biafran War, and most of these things were reported either depending on the author. But most people have also been saying that there were no there were no killings in the southeast, and that is perhaps why maybe the Northerners ganged up against the Igbos and then began the pogrom and then counter coup of July 1966. But here is Babangida now telling us that Igbo officers were killed. So the fact that, let's assume, the fact that these officers were not killed in the eastern part of Nigeria, which is now southeastern part of Nigeria, does not in any way means that Igbos were not killed in that coup. So the argument people had in the past that this coup was one-sided, that Igbos, there were no killings in the east, doesn't hold water based on the revelation Babangida has given us in his book. So actually, Igbo officers lost their lives. Same as Ahmadu Bello, Tafa Balewa, that was killed, and the officer people that were killed in the western part of Nigeria. So invariably, there were killings every part of Nigeria. Also, like, okay, let's put it this way, that every region of Nigeria then, because I think we had the 4 regions then, the east, west, north, and the midwestern region. So let us also say that each of the regions then lost people in that first failed coup. So Babangida has established another important fact now, moving on from this discussion, because this discussion will not end just like that. Again, quoting Babangida again in his book, then where he says here, it should also be remembered that some non-Igbo officers, quote, non-Igbo officers, like Major Adewale Ademoyaga, Captain Ganiyu Adeleke, Lieutenant Bola Oyewole, and Olafmiyan took part in the third coup. I've read about Yoruba officers that were involved in the coup. So he also collaborates what I had read in the past about Yorubas getting involved in the coup. Another officer of Igbo extraction, listen to this. Another officer of Igbo extraction, Major John Obienu, crushed the coup. Are you getting something out of this book of Revelation? Not the one in Bible, but book of Revelation by Babangida. Babangida is saying here that an Igbo officer crushed the coup. I've heard Ojukwu say this, and I've also heard many people, many prominent Igbo people, and some honest Nigerians, few honest Nigerians say that the Igbos also crushed the coup. But here is Babangida again, reconfirming what, again, I've heard in the past, where other people are a bit skeptical about owing up to this fact, that the Igbos or an Igbo officer crushed the coup. And the maker of the Megojuku then, Colonel, was in Kano. He also helped to crush the coup in Kano State, northern Nigeria. So how come people tag this as an Igbo coup? That's the crux of the matter. That's what I want to find out. How did people come up with this analogy that this is an Igbo or was an Igbo coup that led to the counter coup? It was labeled Igbo coup. Wow, and why? Does it mean that people didn't know these facts, or those in power then didn't know these facts, or that they were naive, or they deliberately didn't want to own up to the facts that led to counter coup, and then that led to pogrom that culminated in the Civil War? Because these were also the remote causes of the Civil War. These were also the beginning and the remote causes of the Civil War. So the point is this: does it mean, or the same thing that's happening in Nigeria today happened then? The officers, quote and unquote, kept mute kept quiet. They didn't want to own up to the fact that this Coup was an Igbo coup. Or I can't just explain. So it is, we still gonna like get more revelations about how this was nicknamed Igbo Coup. However, I had, a school of thought that maintained that it was tagged Igbo Coup so that the Northerners can cover up the atrocities and the killings and the pogroms against the Igbos. But since we're in a season of book writing, I believe that more people will write books and then more revelations will emerge. But however, this is not too new. But what is new about this is the fact that Babangida chose to speak now, chose to speak in 2025 about this event. Many people have also written in the past or said something about it in the past. We don't have to blame Babangida for speaking or saying late, but one would have expected at least an atom of truth to have maybe emerged. But again, one can also understand that there was a deliberate attempt to annihilate the Igbos from the fact emerging. I'm sure more facts will emerge. We are waiting for Gowon, General Gowon, to write his own book and tell us or tell the nation what really transpired, what really happened, his actions and inactions that resulted to the war, because he has to speak. Anyway, we can't force him to speak, but he has to. It's better for him to write a book and then let us know what really happened in the past. Okay, and again, in fairness to Bassanja, was told, reliably told, that Bassanja has also spoken about this in the past, has owned up that this wasn't an Igbo coup. I haven't read Bassanja's comment or watch his let's say interview on this. If you have the interview, kindly share with me so that I can be able to update myself on that. Right, if you have any concerns, if you have any comments or contributions to make, kindly drop them at the comment section. Like and share my video. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks. Bye.